Salt and pepper.
I do have the salt and pepper. Okay. So I mean, first step. This is a great representation of Earth, right? It's completely flat, but it's still circular. So there's a few observations we can make straight from there. The first one is that circumnavigation is still completely possible.
Oh my god.
Because instead of having a three-dimensional space where you have to go around it like this, instead you just make a concentric circle on the surface of this one. So like say here's North America, here's Europe, you can still go in the same direction and get back to where you started.
Why can't you just go straight?
Because if you go straight, you'll to you it looks like you're going straight. But if you go like this way, you can just fall off. So gravity, that's like the biggest misconception, the idea that gravity exists. I'm right here to tell you that an invisible force that's holding you down to the planet is fake, it doesn't exist, and there's no way you can explain it besides magic. I have a way to explain why things go down. It's really simple. They don't, things go up. Specifically, the thing that's going up is Earth. So what I'm saying right now is that instead of there being a magical force that pushes you down at 9.8 meters per second squared, the Earth is moving up at 9.8 meters per second squared. So in other words, when I dropped this napkin, right, it didn't go down. The Earth went up and picked it up. And so see, this makes a lot of things simpler and easier to understand. For one thing, well, I just have to keep going. Give me a second. So for one thing, there's this misconception that the Earth is spinning around 300 kilometers per second and revolving around the sun at about 3,000 kilometers per second. But if that's the fact, then it should stand to reason that if you jump, right, and the Earth is spinning and moving, then you shouldn't land. If the Earth is moving and spinning, you should at least have been spun around, but you're not. Well, the reason is really simple. It's because the Earth isn't doing all the spinning, not doing all this rotation. It's doing one simple constant motion, 9.8 meters per second squared, upwards.
Oh my god.
So horizons. That's something a lot of people talk about. They say that there's horizons. We can see the curvature of the Earth. If you ever look at the seaboard, you'll see a ship coming in and you'll see it's slowly rising over the horizon. That's not true. There's a really simple way to explain that, and quite frankly, it's just refraction. We all know that water refracts light. Well, if you get a body of water big enough like the ocean, you're gonna refract light so many times that eventually you're just not gonna be able to see past a certain point. So what we think of as a horizon is really just the natural phenomena of light being refracted. Okay, let's keep going with some other misconceptions. So the sun and the moon. So let's pretend this white one, the salt shaker is the sun, and this pepper is the moon, okay? It's really simple. So all we have to be able to show you is that the sun is about 300 kilometers upwards, it's about 30 kilometers across, and it's also going 9.8 meters per second squared upwards. That's why we don't collide into each other, so it's not accelerating away from us. Same speed. And it's really simple. The way you have a daylight cycle is if you see the shadow of the salt shaker, the sun is doing this. So what you can see is that you have different day-night patterns on the surface, and also depending on the proximity of the sun to different places, that's how you get seasons like winter, summer, spring, fall, all of that good stuff. So phases of the moon works really similar. The moon is also doing this, but it's farther up and it's smaller. That's why and based on where the sun is, the light shines on the moon, so you get different phases of the moon because there's different light shining on it.
How do eclipses work?
What?
How does the eclipse work?
Eclipses?
When the moon is underneath.
Yeah. Eclipses is really, it's just they do this. So let's move on to the next big misconception. Because a lot of misconceptions we have to get through.
Oh my god.
The next one is that trees exist. Trees don't exist. So this is a really simple one. Which you think of as trees aren't actually trees. So what you see as mountains and what you think of as mountains are really the stumps of the actual trees that existed before. But those trees no longer exist because of the Great Fire that happened during the Industrial Revolution. That's why mountains look like they're made of rock. They're not rock, they're petrified wood. It's charred. And what we see as trees right now is what humanity did to make up for the loss of wood that we had. And so the biggest question I always get when I'm explaining flat Earth, right?
Oh my god.
I always want to understand is why. Why is this misconception present? Why don't we know about it? Why is the government lying to us? What about the pictures that show that the Earth is globular? Well, there's 1,000 ways to explain all this. So let's start off and start. The reason we don't really know about this is that let's start off with another misconception. People say that like people used to think that the Earth was flat until like Galileo or Newton or one of them. It's not true. People actually stopped believing that the Earth was flat 2,000 years ago because the ancient Greeks did some math. Of course, it was wrong, and they thought that the Earth was globular. And most people since then have thought that the Earth was globular. Now, the truth is that people would never find out if the Earth was flat because the only way you could tell is if you came off of the surface of the Earth, right? Realizing it was flat, but by then you would have fallen off the Earth and died. So there was no way to tell that the Earth was flat because the only way to find out was to fall off of the Earth. So the only people who would be able to see that the Earth wasn't flat and survive to tell the tale would be planes. People who were above the Earth's surface saw that there wasn't a surface below them and flew back. But by then we already had mass communication and telecommunication, so the governments around the world were able to into this conspiracy of telling the people that the Earth was round and that the Earth was a ball, so they would believe it because it's easier to control people if they think they live on a round Earth and not a flat Earth.
Why?
Because if you think you live on a round Earth, one of the problems you run into is that you think things are a lot more interconnected, you think things are a lot more contiguous than they really are. But if you live on a flat Earth, there's a lot more like truth and like light that shines on you. So I'll get into it a little bit, that makes it very obvious. So another thing that people say is, okay, well, what about pictures I've seen that show that the Earth is round? Those are from NASA and government corporations. Like the government owns those things. Why would you ever trust them?
What about Trump? What is he trying to do? Is he trying to expose?
Well, Trump doesn't know that the Earth isn't flat because.
Then why is he like backing, like taking funding away from NASA?
Well, he's taking funding away from NASA because he just doesn't believe in climate change. But climate change does exist because of the Great Fire that destroyed all the real trees.
And another question.
Yes.
When you dig into that earth, how far do you
It's 9
dig?
kilometers. 9 kilometers deep.
Thank you. I need to know that.
So where was I? So why are the governments in the world doing this? That's probably the most pressing question on everyone's mind right now. Why would all of the governments in the world do this? The answer is so simple that it's kind of mind-boggling, actually. It's circumnavigation and air traffic controls. See, you make millions of more dollars by having planes have to take this circular route rather than like a direct route if you tell people that the Earth is round. So that's one of the other reasons. Air traffic controls make a lot of money by pretending that the Earth is round and flying more than they have to. So that's why like countries like maybe say North Korea or Russia don't really have American interests in mind, that they don't really care about America being able to control its populace. That's why they're on board, because they're able to make money off of air traffic control. At this point, like I'm really... Yeah, go ahead. The edge of the Earth is here, like it's at the edge.
Exact location.
What?
So like, imagine this is the North, right? This is what you typically think of the North Pole. Here's like Europe, North America, all this. Antarctica like wraps around here. It's all water. Everything around the edge
What's
is
on
water.
the underside?
That's
This is dirt.
the story.
It keeps going dirt in space.
9 kilometers.
Infinite space, yeah, 9 kilometers. Give or take, you know.
Okay, next question. How does night and day work?
9 day. Well, like I said, like depending on whether the Earth is shining, like the sun
So
is
it's
shining.
just like
on you.
it's just
There's a spotlight. Yeah, there's a spotlight that does like
okay,
this.
gotcha.
Any more questions?
What started the Great Fire?
Industrial Revolution. Yeah. 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 Well, the seasons is like the proximity to where it is at that time, right? So like if I'm shining all the way over here, this side's experiencing winter right now because it's doing rotations like this. Yeah. The sun is globular. Is indeed a three-dimensional sphere.
Okay, so how come there's no like recorded history of the Great Fire?
I mean, all of the recorded history would be written down by historians, which of course we all know are controlled by the government.
Wait, like how exactly did it start?
How did the Great Fire start? It was the Industrial Revolution. People were trying to crank out as much product, as much like capitalistic, vulturistic, like just destabilization of our ecology, and like they didn't know what they were doing. It probably started with a coal fire or something as simple as that, but as more and more of it started burning, it just caught on, and because the great trees were so flammable, as you can see from the mountains today, well, they all caught on fire.
You're
just
telling
caught
me.
fire.
No, the sun's only 30 kilometers across. These measurements are from Mayor William Volvia. He was a mayor of a small Wisconsin town during the 1901.
During 1901, he didn't die in the Great Fire?
It was before there's the proximity of the Great Fire. He didn't, no. Montana doesn't have, I live in Tony, Wisconsin. Wisconsin doesn't have that many trees.
Did anyone die in the Great Fire?
A lot of people died in the Great Fire.
Why
Native
did-
Americans. Why do you think they're all gone?
So what about like just normal people? Do they not remember the Great Fire? Brainwashed?
Well, remember like what's happening around the time of the Great Fire, right? Specifically in specifically in North America, you have the Civil War, which is encompassing like the entire nation. Directly after the Industrial Revolution, and around that time, you have both the Great Wars, World War I, World War II. Those are what I mean by Great Wars. And like, there's so much tension happening that like these things kind of got like pushed off the wayboard because no one was really thinking of like a fire that like wasn't really burning down towns. They were thinking about the fact that we were all killing each other.
There was a fire that burned down all of the trees in the world,
Real trees.
and no one was paying attention because of
Wait,
war.
were there fake trees?
Well, the fake trees are outside all around us. But what you think of as trees today aren't trees. There are no forests on the flat Earth.
So wait, what are those?
Yesterday you said those are baby trees.
We have baby
Let me
fake
ask you
trees.
How tall were the real trees?
How tall are real trees?
How tall were the
Well,
real trees?
like
A mountain is
they
a
don't
Mount
exist
Everest is
anymore.
like what 4,000 kilometers high,
Yeah.
and that's just the stump of a real tree. So I would say that a real tree probably got up to 12,000, maybe even 15,000 kilometers.
How far away is the sun?
The sun is only 300 kilometers out.
So are you saying that these trees, whenever they touch the sun, they burn?
Encase the sun.
No, of course not. That'd
Is that how the fire
be
started?
ridiculous. No, stop it. You're all like getting into
trees
these
aren't real.
ridiculous things right now.
Wait, so what are fake trees made out of?
So
What are
wait,
fake trees made out of? Well, they're made of cellulose and like water. I didn't take biology. Fuck that shit.
so you have the sun, and then there were just trees like sprouting up around the sun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the sun isn't
So
very
what hap-
hot. Like that's
so
something a lot of people don't realize. The sun is like I think the temperature of the real sun, not the sun that we all hear about, is revolving around somewhere. I want to say 42 degrees Celsius, maybe 50 degrees Celsius. Like really, the important part is that it's bright, so we have daylight and night. But
What about
heat
how hot it gets?
comes from the magmus culture of the tectonic plates.
Coin a phrase right there? You just coin a phrase.
The magmus culture. Listen, what I'm saying is there's magma and pressure and heat and fire under our feet, and that's where heat comes from.
But so at nighttime when it gets colder, does that just go away?
How does it stop for winter? Because remember, like the lava is like liquid tectonic plates moving in like semi-liquid form. So like convection means that like on some places like the heat will transfer here. It'll get hot here, it'll get cold here, and then the heat will go back down. It'll come back up. It'll get cold here, it'll get hot here. It's just convection.
Jose.
Yeah, well, it's just a fluid hot magma that's convection.
What's that? Talk about the area of the flat Earth.
The area of the flat Earth.
Oh, God.
So you mean like how big it is?
Yeah.
Well, I know North America is around, I want to say 42,000 kilometers across. So I'd say that the Earth as an entirety is probably somewhere around 100,000 kilometers across. Like I haven't actually looked at those calculations myself. I trust William Bova on a lot of these, but I think that's about right.
Didn't you say in a previous conversation that the Earth was had endless area? Like,
No, that's space.
that's
So, well, here's another misconception here, another point that a lot of people bring up. They say, well, like, what about the sun, the stars, and the planets, and like the rings of Venus or Saturn, or whichever one has rings? I'm like, how do you explain that if the Earth is flat? Well, the answer is really simple. The Earth is encompassed in a giant sphere, and that sphere is space. And on that sphere is are painted the heavenly bodies. Now, something that's very interesting about this is that this sphere works a lot like the Mandelbrot set, which means that it confines a definite area that is limited and bounded, but the actual edges of that space are infinite. So even though there's an infinite perimeter, there's a finite area and volume. Yes.
You said the North America is 24 square kilometers. Wow.
North America is around 42,000 kilometers across.
42, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, but according to the internet, it's just another 44.
That's
Africa
controlled by the
says-
government. What, have you been learning anything, Andy?
Yes. So Darnell has a great point. We have to remember that a lot of the internet and the purpose of the internet was made for human control.
So how do we find out the truth? Like,
I am a card-holding member of the Flat Earth Society. They have some wonderful resources. They are more than willing to work with you.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, it's flatearthsociety.org.
How do you know it's not hacked by the government? Since
Well,
they control it.
because clearly, like, the government wouldn't want us to know this information, so why would they give us this information? Yes or no?
I have a question. All right, so you said the trees are like really fucking tall, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But the sun's doing this shit and it's moving around. That's why it has seasons. So why didn't the sun just systematically burn down
Well,
all
because
the
I said the
trees
sun isn't very hot.
before the Great
The
Fire?
sun isn't very hot. So
It's
like,
hot enough to set some shit on
Well, the
fire.
sun,
That's
when the
heat
sun
comes
hits a
from-
tree, it's a lot like a fist, like, you know.
Okay, all right. So why does it get the
wait,
tree?
is that when we have thunder?
Yeah. That's why storms aren't as common now. And when you're hearing thunder, what you're actually hearing is like the last remaining great trees, like real trees, hitting the sun.
They just say all the real trees died off.
All this, okay. So when I say all the real great remaining trees died off, there are some notable exceptions. I think there's one or two in North America. One of them is in California. It's hidden within the redwoods, right? So people see all these giant trees in the redwoods. They don't look up. If they look up, they realize there's another one above the redwoods. And the other big one is in northern Canada, where a lot of people don't live, except the Inuit people. Well, of course, Native Americans, they all know that the Earth is flat.
Why does it get cooler at night?
As it get cooler at night,
Yeah.
well,
Remember?
yeah.
It's like it flows underneath
So
the
is that a
sand.
daily
Every
thing?
day in the convection.
Yes, it's like
convection
the ocean.
happens, okay?
It's like the ocean.
Like you can't just like this. You can't just like throw away
And
science for your
that
arguments.
just happens to correlate with when the sun goes away.
Yeah.
It's just a coincidence.
Well, God set up like that.
Or something? Okay, so if you had to sum it up, and you had like, what's your message to every flat Earth denier right now?
My message is that like we need a rigorous debate on the shape of the Earth, right? So continue on your embarkment to prove that the Earth is round, but always remember to be skeptical of the sources you get. Distrust our government because they're lying cheats. And always understand that the biggest and most important thing is that if you live on a round Earth, it's easier to control you, your actions, and your decision making. So you need to line up and realize we live on a flat Earth, people. Wake up.
Oh my.